Hey everybody, welcome to Deconstructing Damsels. I am your host, Jessica, when I remember to tell you such things. And it's Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy Friday. So basically, this is just the episode where my husband and I talk about a book that I made him read. Poor guy. He's not really a romance reader, and my batting average is a little bit off. But I think he's really going to enjoy next year's, because this year's yeah, if you want a really happy, absolutely joyful episode, maybe don't think it's going to be this one, because this one's full of ranting. But yeah, no, if you want a happy one, I would highly recommend listening to Boobies and Noobies for some super, holiday happy ones. Heaving Bosoms, maybe, because this one is going to be an interesting rantathon. We read Secret Christmas Twins, and so we'll get on with that, but hopefully you guys enjoy the episode. I also want to thank my patrons, Dee and Jade, the Elms sisters, I call them, it's just under them on the website, Kerry, Kelly from Boobies and Noobies, and Marlene. Marlene, I wanted to say thank you guys so much. Your contributions help so much. I can't speak this morning because it's like 9 a.m. and I woke up 5 seconds ago. So, enjoy the show. No housekeeping today. Just, kind of be on the lookout for one more episode before the year ends, because it's going to be a doozy. Let's let you listen to me and Sven as we talk about Christian Christmas babies. Dun dun dun.
Hi! It's Christmas, and that means, of course, it's an episode with my dear husband and always editor, Sven, and it means it's also time for a Christmas book reading for the non-romance reader, except what I kind of put in front of him and make him read, which God help him, because sometimes likes this book. Yeah? Hi.
J'accuse.
No, be serious. What?
That's French for I accuse you.
I know you do, but more.
Oh, first of all, warm welcome to our audience. It's very nice to have you here. In a moment you will be witness to immense human suffering.
Yes.
Well, you will be witness to the aftermath of immense human suffering.
Okay, so we should mention that we read Tobin McClain's Sweet Christmas Twins, which is a Harlequin love-inspired book. And I also want to mention this is the first Harlequin book he's ever read, and I am so sorry to him for that, because they're normally really good. I prefer books with Harlequin in them. Don't we all? But, we don't have the money for a comic book, so you got the book we got for free.
Yes.
I should mention I got it for free because I had it last year. I was going to read it for the podcast last year before I moved, and then I didn't, and then it was in a box, and so my mom just sent it along, and I was like, oh, we can read this. It's a Christmas book, and now I'm very sad that I tortured my husband once again, because anyone that remembers our first episode with driving home for Christmas, prepare for number 2.
That
the return. Yeah?
That one was more offensively bad, and this is more badly offensive.
Yeah. But same level of like for both, I think.
Yeah, the other one was shorter.
Yeah. Well, this one was fairly short. It's like 218 pages, 19 pages, but it's Harlequin, so it's big print and stuff, so it really wasn't that many pages.
To borrow from a podcast, it's like the difference between We Are the World and Do They Know It's Christmas? Do They Know It's Christmas wins because it's shorter.
Basically, he's talking about song versus song because he loves that podcast.
Well, love is a strong word, but I quite enjoy it.
Okay, he loves to torture me with that podcast.
Well, last few episodes I listened to without you.
Yes, because I was very kindly like, please don't make me with these songs.
You didn't say it directly. I had to take a while to figure it out.
I know. Because normally, okay, so before we get into the book, we should mention that, like, we watch a lot of different things and we listen to a bunch of different things. Like, I listen to a lot of book podcasts and, like, history podcasts. And my husband, like, loves, like, things that do with animals. Like, was it Creature Feature? Is that the one? Yeah.
Recommended.
Yeah. And then, you know, he also likes things about, like, the New Day podcast, which is the wrestlers. And he also likes, like, Song versus Song and all kinds of, like, the McElroys. And so it's different.
Let's not forget Dice Funk.
Yes, and Dice Funk. I was going to get to your D&D in a second. But he also likes D&D, so he listens to several of those, including ones where he's not playing on the games, but those in his group are, because he plays D&D.
Shout out to Jonas. Jonas Plays.
Yes, I was going to say, and that is because of Jonas. And Jonas Plays is on Twitch, and if anyone wants to listen, it's very interesting, and then they have an upload.
There's romance in the main campaign.
Oh yeah, there is romance in the main campaign.
Between a woman and a kobold.
Between a woman named Mads, no less. So you guys should get the idea about her.
Does that count as paranormal romance?
I think it counts as, like,
I mean, the
bestiality romance? I don't know.
No.
Well, because the other kobold's not a human.
Yeah, but it's not bestiality if they're a sapient being.
Maybe. I don't know.
He's upright. He's configured like a human.
But he doesn't look like one.
And he talks.
And we should mention
And he owns a tavern.
We should mention this is the same podcast where I was tweeting about the romance cover a couple months ago. This is the same one. So it's a very interesting one. Unfortunately, they're on a break right now because it's Christmas time and people that work in retail do not have time right now.
Yeah. We're hoping it's going to change very soon.
Yes, he can go back to his D&Ding. That's also why I can't record on Saturday night sometimes, because D&D, which I have no problem with because I can get up in the morning and we can record and before then, that's fine. And there's a bunch of people that are actually willing to be on the podcast that's going to let me record with them soon that don't mind doing it on the weekends, which is awesome. And I truly appreciate that with people.
Cool people about to be on a cool podcast. That would have been much cooler if I had said it right the first time.
Okay, so in a minute we're going to get into the book. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Harlequin, because we ADHD'd each other to death, as we do. It's a lot like when Courtney's on the podcast, right? So we all know how me and ADHD goes. I tie a side tangent all the time. So I love Harlequins, adore them. Like, I grew up reading them. Actually, I grew up reading Zebras first, and I remember because it had that little foil. Anybody remember the little foil? So I grew up reading those more, but I grew up reading Harlequins when I was in, like, I learned to drive when I was, like, 21, and it was kind of like a drive or get left behind situation, and so I started reading Harlequins again, because, again, I grew up reading them as well, but I read more of them when I was older, and my godmother was always going to the doctor, and as you know, if someone's older, you're in the doctor's office for 4 hours waiting, so I'd go grab a Harlequin for, like, under $2 and read it the entire time. And I'd almost be done with it by the time her appointment was over, even if I didn't go in, or even if I did. It's the whole thing. So I really enjoyed them.
Very patient people, those Harlequins.
But the Love Inspired was not on my list because...
It's bad?
I'm not the target audience, we'll put it that way, and neither are you. Like, neither one of us are, and I wish I had paid attention more to that when I said this, because I'm sure I could have gotten a book, like, because you can go through all the retail dealers and get one, and I could have got us one if I'd thought about it online, but this one was here, and we could both read it, and, you know, I read it in, like, about 6 hours, and that's off and on reading, and then he read it in about 2 or 3 days, which for him is actually pretty good. So, you know, he was getting rid of it so he could be done with it and move on with his life, I think, as he nods beside me and makes his
yeses. It's like a parent knoll.
Okay, so this is a very, like, it's not even this a complicated plot, but the gist of it is this lady has got 2 twins that she has no birth certificate or any information about, but, you know, she took the twins because her friend asked her to. The father was not in the situation because he was in prison, and so the mom was dying, and she's like, no, please, like, before I die, take my kids and go, so therefore they don't go in the foster system, because the lead character, Erica, had been in the foster system, and Kimmy, the twins' mom, was a drug addict, and she was dying of cancer and stuff like this. So she went on the run, and Kimmy sent her to Pennsylvania from Arizona so she could go live at the family farm that I guess she didn't realize anyone still lived in. Mm-hmm. And so she gets there, and then there's this whole big subplot about, like, of course you've got the romance between Erica and the brother Jason, who is a cop. A cop in 2020. Bastard. This was written in 2017, but a cop written in 2020.
That's close enough.
Whew. I had so many issues with this man that had nothing to do with his whatever, but I still had so many issues.
But the book was written in a way that let me know it's still there.
Oh, yeah, and it was in Pennsylvania, so that was also apparent as well, because, like, it was written in the mountains, because it was somewhere, I don't know, it was like 4 hours to Philly? Or was it Pittsburgh? I think it was Philly.
It doesn't matter,
No, they're very different cities. Sorry, Pennsylvania people. I realize they're very different. I just don't remember which direction they were going. I just remember it was a 4-hour car ride, and I was tired of them. So they went there. He had issues at his job, so he was on leave because his partner was like a dirty cop and taking bribes and, dirty money and blah, 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 blah. And of course, he's going to be vindicated, whatever.
And of course, because he was a cop in the big city, and in the big city, bad things happen. Unlike the countryside where all the good people are.
Yes. And by the way, it's a very small town romance.
It's a Hallmark city.
Yeah, but I mean, it's actually I think it's a little bit worse than a Hallmark city, honestly, because, like, on a Hallmark city, I mean, like, it's perfect and nice and beautiful and blah, 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 but it's nothing like it is in this. Like, this one was more like, I don't know, for my American listeners, have y'all ever seen an Up movie? Up is a channel. Mm-hmm. It's like a Christian channel. If you've ever seen the Up movies, then you know what they are. Actually, he has seen an Up movie because he saw one, I think, last year with me. But, it's just not great. And it's not great because it's very heavily Christian, and there's a very strong messaging in it, and this book is, like, very much like that, and I had so many issues with it because, like, this lady took the babies, but for all the right reasons. Like, she was trying to keep them out of going into the foster system because Kimmy did not want her brother, Jason, to have these kids at all cost. Because, like, Jason was super judgmental. Like, you became a drug addict, you were useless, you were worthless, or you had, kind of any kind of issues, you were, like, to be discarded because you weren't perfect. You weren't, I mean, he used the word, like, pure a couple times. Yeah. And innocent.
And more than implicitly, the book generally agreed with that.
Yeah, like, it does, because I have it in my notes. Mm-hmm. I have lots of notes about my notes. Like, anyone who was on Twitter saw a tiny portion of my notes. I have, like, 6 pages of notes, guys. Notes
upon notes.
He has, like, a lot, but he has a better memory than I do. Well, not memory, but he has better rage memory, so it's easier for him.
Yes.
Whereas me, I wanted to write down all of it because, like, there's a lot of Christian messaging in this book, and, like, and again, I have no problem with Christian messaging because I used to watch the Up movies, right? Like, not my style, not my thing, but I still could appreciate the elements of the relationships in the films, but this one was just so, like, shoehorned in and made no sense of the story whatsoever.
Yeah, as the book went on, it was more and more frequent that they just casually mentioned that it's all in God's hands and you gotta believe in Him and through Him you work and this and that and that.
Yeah, and God provides and God forgives and, like,
basically everything good that happens in the character's own minds is credited to God exclusively.
Yeah, or like there's also a lot of messaging about being, like, a bad person because she feels like she's not a good person because her mom was a drug addict. And so she was bounced around in foster care and moving a lot when her mom was in and out of jail or, rehab or, drugged, whatever she was in at the time. And, like, how she always had to wear, like, secondhand clothing and she was unlovable. Like, she was never going to have a family because she wasn't pretty, because she never dressed up and she never looked, gorgeous, like, kind of like shitting on the beauty industry, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of issues with the beauty industry, but, like,
of course,
the confidence of women.
The book is also going the Hollywood route about it because every few pages somebody comments on how beautiful she is naturally.
Uh-huh. It reminds me of She's All That.
Yep.
It's got that level of like, she's not pretty, but she's really gorgeous. And it is, I had so many issues. And then like...
Also ultra white. So white.
You couldn't get more white.
Mm-hmm.
Which, at first, by the way, there's a line in there he talks about his dark tan, and I'm like, is he not white? And then later on, you see that like, he's like, one of his like old coworkers like pulls him over to rib him or whatever, and like she's like, oh no, he had like blonde hair. I mean, he had like dark hair and blue eyes. I was like, oh no, he's white.
He's just tanned.
Yeah, from working in the farm apparently for like a week and a half, whatever it was. Because this book took place over about a week too, by the way.
Yeah, a week in which I'd like to stress a plot incidental dog gets injured severely and heals completely.
Yeah. Oh, and like they never even like they mentioned taking the dog to the vet, and then they like barely mention the dog again until like near the end.
Until he's convenient.
Mm-hmm. But like there were so many things that made me like.
Also, of course, the twins are developmentally delayed because they're the children of an addict, and of course there has to be something wrong with them.
Yes, because the twins have developmental delays because I guess she said she was clean, but they're kind of implying that she wasn't when she was pregnant. And like apparently twins weren't in the family. Oh yeah, that was a missed thread too. Where the hell was this the mother's twin? Why was this never mentioned again? Did you notice that in the book?
Now that you say so, it's briefly mentioned that the mother was a twin, and after that...
Yeah, like the mother was a twin, and then someone mentioned it, and then it was never... I was like, maybe that would explain why the mother was not very, like, engaged as a mother, because she was still, like, going through issues. Because so, Jason and Kimmy's mom and dad were, like, kind of... They're those parents that, like, they have the parents and they plop on the grandparents, and then they go, like, on their, like, yearly Christmas vacation or whatever without the kids or whatever. Yeah, it was... Like, if you had a bingo card, you would get bingo within 15 pages of this book. Minimum.
And
maximum
if you played a
amount.
drinking game, you would get dead within 15 minutes.
Yes, because, like, okay, so... We find out, like, she's got to go through, like, the charity, at the church, she's got to go through a charity to get these kids some clothes, and she's like, okay, this sucks, but it is life. I mean, you do what you got to do, and I have some opinions on that, because, like, let's see, I guess it's about, like, 2014, 15, somewhere around there. I guess it was 15. I had to go through food banks to get food, because in the U.S., if you were self-employed, you didn't qualify for food stamps because I guess you weren't doing your job enough. Even though I had a job, but my job was only paying me $8 an hour, and I was only getting like 10 hours a week, and that doesn't, like, you spend more than that than, getting rid of your, like, self-employment tax. You're basically you're, like, basically working for free.
Yep.
And so I didn't qualify, and I had gotten a job because at the time I'd moved on to some, temp work. I was help setting up a school and, getting all the things moved and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to quit this job because I had another job show up. That job bait and switched me and lied, and it became a 1099, and I thought it was going to be like a W-2 job so I could qualify for stuff. Turns out I did not. And so there was a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I was living in a really shitty house. Like, Sven had been there. It was a really shitty house. Like, though,
I mean, it was probably a great house when it was built in 1945.
Yeah, but like this, like, y'all, the asbestos was falling off the siding. Yes. And it was the original siding, so there was a lot of issues.
Don't forget the exposed power cable drooping down over the kitchen door.
Oh yeah, there was that. I think that eventually got fixed up.
Yeah, and the fact that the bathroom floor kind of was held up by the linoleum.
Mm-hmm. And we're not gonna mention the fact there was no insulation or anything in the walls or anything. So like I was living
we could have a whole own podcast about that house alone.
But the point is I was living in a very precarious situation, and so I didn't qualify for food stamps, and I had no money. So I had to go to the food pantries, and they would go to a couple of big businesses. They would go use our parking lots on like a couple of days, and it was great. And I was really lucky that they did that. Mm-hmm. Because I would have been without otherwise.
Yep. So no shame in charity.
Right. So, like, the fact that she's feeling some kind of way about it really pissed me off. Because, like, apparently they had pretty decent items, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, she kept talking about needing this, that, and the other, and I kept going, is there no thrift stores in your area? Like, she mentioned getting something from a thrift store, so I'm like, why are you not buying your kids some clothes at the thrift store? Even if they're not perfect.
Well,
Kimmy gave her enough money there. She could have easily gotten, like, some clothes for, like, $20 for the twins, at least a couple pair of pants.
but here's the problem with that. If she went through the thrift store, she would not have gone to the church. And if she doesn't go to the church, she doesn't go to the church.
True enough. But the thing is, see, this is what you don't know. In America, a lot of the thrift stores are run by churches, and they're run by religious organizations. So she would have still been able to go and connect. Because, like, the little town I was in, we had, like, three popular ones. We had one that was in town that only took cash. We had the Goodwill, which was expensive, was overly expensive and didn't really provide a lot. For me personally, they had some great clothes and I could get them occasionally, but the prices kept going up and it wasn't worth the price of them going up. And then there was this little thrift store, and it was a like I guess ministry mission type store, and they never pushed any kind of religious anything on anybody, but it was owned, and you knew, because for one thing, it was always closed on a Sunday, which is huge in retail. You don't ever close on a Sunday in the U.S. Because, here, everything's closed in Germany, but in the U.S., Sunday is a huge shopping day for the next week.
Yeah, I think that the not pushing things is exactly what kept it out of the book.
Yeah, I kind of think so, too, because it was kind of obvious. Because, like, it was really neat, and I appreciated it, and, like, I like it when stories talk about that kind of stuff, because it's not easy. And there's a lot of people in the world, especially after this year, that have been, like, hit really hard with that kind of slam. And so you're just like, what do you do?
Of course, the book kind of throws it away by embedding it in the story where she literally inherits half a farm, and also is about to get husband who owns the other half of the farm.
Yeah, because like Kimmy owned half the farm and Jason owned half the farm. Their grandfather lived there as a permanent resident, but he didn't actually like own it, and they did that in their trust because apparently they were like, they keep acting like they're not rich, but like if you have a trust like that, you've got some money, because that takes some money to put that trust together.
Yeah, they have a farm. It's mentioned several times that the protagonist has a whole ass new truck.
Yeah. He's a cop, so...
They can easily take a dog in overnight.
And take it to the vet, like, on a Saturday.
And take a woman and two twins in and feed them, no problem.
Right. Like, there was a whole bunch of... But, like, the thing that really got to me is there was a couple of statements in here that really... I hated Jason. Like... I wanted to toss this jackass out the window. Like, listeners, you know what an alpha hole is? He's at times 10. Because he thinks he's being, like, benevolent, because he's got his men pain. And then, he's, like, judgmental as hell. I rarely see a male person this judgmental. Like, guys, even the most judgmental person in, like, a Lifetime and Hallmark movie, and I don't mean just a Christmas movie, have nothing on this guy.
But in a way it's almost realistic, because he's a cop, and he's a fucking cop.
Yes. And he chooses to be a cop. Because it's clear he could go home and work on the farm or whatever, and they make a pretty decent living. But, like, I appreciated the fact of the setting. Like, I liked the area they were in, I think. Because, like you mentioned, it was in a Hallmark movie, but, like, they had a diner, because every small town must have the diner, right?
Of course. It's the center of everything.
And then some. But, like, this time, it was very obviously... oh, God, I'm trying to think. There was some movies... Do you guys remember back in, like, the mid-2000s, there was, like, movies, I think maybe on Hallmark, but I think it was more on, like, Lifetime and all that. There were, like, Christmas movies where, like, they went to the what do you call that? Like the little towns, like the mountain towns and stuff like that. It was very much like that.
Yeah.
And like I remember it reminding me so much of that. Not a good thing at all.
By any means.
And like, I mean, I appreciated the people, and I was listening to Obstinate Strong Girls, which is a podcast I recently found. Really enjoy it, by the way. But I was listening to them, and they were talking about how this one book they were reading reminded them of Stars Hollow, which is the Gilmore Girls city. And I could kind of see this as being like that, but rural version of Stars Hollow, where everybody helps each other, everybody knows each other. Like, you know, her boss was brought in or whatever, and early on Ruth was brought in to, you know, help with the twins, and so
the church lady, I believe,
could like spy. And speaking of the spying, can we talk about the like narcotic scene?
Yeah. The one that I wrote down in my notes is unforgivable.
Yeah, I was like...
So, basically, may I set the scene?
Yeah, set the scene, because it's a hell of a scene.
Jason and his elderly father suspect that the woman they took in may be a drug addict because she fraternized with the sister of the protagonist, who is also a drug addict. So what they do is they set a whole set of, I want to say, cocaine dishes. No, not cocaine, heroin dishes.
Yeah,
needles.
Like something like white, like
a whole
white powder. Yeah, maybe cocaine. Yeah,
and a whole kit to consume it, whatever that was supposed to be. They set it out.
It was a narc kit, so it was probably had like a needle and stuff like that because.
In any case, they leave that out as a trap for her to see how she reacts. And she reacts with confusion and alarm, and she officially passes the test, and she does get to be mad at them for like 2 pages, but it's quickly glossed over.
Because, of course, she's lying about this being their nephews and their grandchildren, or I guess great-grandchildren, so therefore, we know how that goes. Lying is unforgivable, but...
Only if it's somebody that the book doesn't like.
Yeah, which is pretty much everybody.
Oh, and speaking of people the book doesn't like, shall we go into the scene where Jason's ex shows up?
Oh, God, yeah. No, okay, so let's set the scene for that. So, Jason was apparently a really shitty partner.
My God, not Jason.
I know, he seems so well put together. But he was like a really shitty partner, and he's like, oh, I'm going to be the worst, like, person, blah, 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 blah. Like, he's like, I'm not made for this marriage, or this life, or this domestic being. And then he meets Erica, and of course everything's all different. But, so we learned that his, like, ex-fiancé was apparently, like, very hard to please, and blah, 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 blah. But then we come to find out, Renea?
I guess that's the name, yeah.
Yeah, like, Renea has got, like, serious issues. And I don't mean just little ones. I mean, like, she's got an eating disorder, she's an alcoholic, like, desperately needs attention at all points.
Which the book kind of conflates because it's only mentioned she has an eating disorder, and when she shows up, it's treated as, of course, that she's also an alcoholic.
Yeah, and, like, her parents give up on her, and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, am I being too judgy? And he's like, yeah. But he's like, but whatevs.
That's basically, am I being too judgmental? Well, the book agrees with all the judgments he caused.
Yeah. Like, this dude is like, I have notes about that, and we will come back to it.
Yeah. And also, basically the ex-girlfriend is also there to show what a nice gentleman he is by dropping her off at some kind of Christian rehab center.
Well, no, but it gets even worse because that's one that, like, Erica was like, well, it has to be Christian. They're the only ones that can cure.
Yep.
And I was like, you mean how they cured your mama who died from drug overdose? I'm saying...
Guess she didn't believe hard enough.
Lord. And so...
Exactly.
Into that song, because, like, I love that song, but no. That If You Believe song, I think is what he said. Anyway. So... Like, we get into that, and we meet that, and then, like, but the way he describes women is so grotesque. like, he talks about how, hold on, she was vulnerable, innocent.
Like a calf.
And he also calls her, like, she's a good person, stable, not hiding things.
Which is, of course, basically there for the mwah of the plot.
So, no, but so my this has been my notes with. It's only been a week. The ideal is chastity. The fuck is this book? Those are my 3 notes together.
Yeah. Because it was also a huge plot point that he so hoped that his sister had remained chaste, which is another reason why he wasn't allowed to find out that the twins are hers.
Yeah, because apparently not being chaste is like... Because apparently they were giving out purity rings when they were in school or something, and everyone had one. I'm like, did you have the purity ball to go with it?
And the purity balding father.
Ugh. It was so gross, and it was just like... And they kept having those kind of comments. And it's like... You know, you hear the way he talks, and like, she's like, and like, she always talks about herself like, she was a terrible person, not deserving of a family, because she's lying to help these children who have got developmental delays and who need help. So she's willing to sell her half of the farm, the only place she has to live with no money, to get these kids help.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another thing we'll get to in a moment. But, you know, this is how he refers to her after the truth comes out. In truth, Erica, like Kimmy, had luster. Yeah, it's like if she'd ever had... Hold on a minute.
Handwriting, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Well, I was writing this quickly because we were sharing the book in the past couple days.
Yes, and you were making dinner too.
Yes. But I made a note because I'm smart.
She is.
It says, in truth, Erica, like Kimmy, had lost her luster. If she'd ever even had it because she was a liar.
And you know what you do with toys that are not shiny anymore?
You put them out so the Velveteen Rabbit can have fun with them?
See, I think the Velveteen Rabbit may be a better partner than the club.
I'm pretty sure the stick outside would be a better partner.
I would have rated the book 5 out of 5 if it had taken that turn.
I don't even know how to rate this book. So, and there's all this conversation about how, like, she's awful and she's evil and, like, because she lied. He's like, am I too judgmental? Because he talks about it. Because she's like, he's asking, like, why Kimmy didn't come to him and blah, blah. She's like, because you're too judgmental. He's like, me? Huh?
Oh, also, early on in the book, I noted this specifically. He, a little bit of setup. In the first scene of the book, he basically rescues Erica from a snowstorm because she drove there unprepared.
Compact car, old, and had bald tires.
Mm-hmm. And he meets her and the twins, and he decides to take her in. But also already makes a mental note. If he sees any sign of addiction, he's going to turn her in immediately.
Yeah, because of course she was friends with his sister, so therefore she can't be trusted.
Which...
That's a piece of shit, guys.
Gee, I wonder why his sister didn't trust him.
Right? But then it's all turned around at the end when his sister sends him a box full, I guess, of letters she'd written him over the years, and then, like, okay, and then they talk about her being fated. They talk about, like, it being fate, and I was just like, hold on, let's back up this. First of all, this is not fated makes, which is the only time I can really take fated as an option. Like, it's got to be something in the paranormal or something like that. Which I guess you could say this was religion is a paranormal aspect, a supernatural aspect. But, like, this one was so badly done to happen in a fucking week. Like, by the way, if you guys want to listen to or read a really good thing that happens in a week, Tessa Dare.
Hell yeah.
She's got an entire thing with Minerva. It's great. But this is not it.
Oh, no.
Because, by the way, he's never read Tessa Dare either. I may make him read that next year.
I trust your judgment, though.
Yeah, I've got tons of them. I'm thinking about making him read the Wallflower Wager since, you know, our dog's name is Penny and the main character's name. Seems appropriate somehow.
That seems disturbing, actually.
I read the book and then we named the dog. Didn't realize the dog was named after that. But Penny in the book really likes animals, so.
Yeah. To be clear, we named our dog the way Jessie has named cats in the past. We kept shouting names at her and used the one that she reacted to.
Yep, and it was Penny.
Which is very fitting.
Yeah, because I was going to call her Maya.
But I think Penny fits it better.
But, like, in this... See, I have to go back to the book. I'm sorry. I'm trying to save you the pain we went trying to read this book. But, like, there's so many, like, quotes about, you know, God, and, like, God works all things to good, and, you know, God makes us right, and, like, there's this whole, like, subplot with his, like, with the grandfather, Papa Andy, where Papa Andy is, like, goes outside to try and see if there's some kind of, like, vagrants in this cabin they own that she wanted to live in at some point, because she's like, fuck these people, they tried to set me up with drugs, so maybe I should go to another place.
Mm.
And so apparently, like, a couple who had family there, but they weren't there, they didn't have anywhere to go, they're like, oh, well, there's a cabin in the woods, let's go there.
A little bit of a Jesus thing.
Yeah.
Just throw it in.
Oh, yeah. But it gets better, we'll discuss that in a moment. But so, like, the grandfather goes out there, doesn't, like, nothing happens, like, he falls and can't get up because it's too slippery, and so he's, like, stuck there and shooting rifle, so someone will come get him. I'm like, y'all, I grew up around guns. I don't own a gun. I have no desire to own a gun. I have owned a gun. I do not own one now. It's just not my thing. But you never shoot at anything you don't want to kill. Ever.
Also, it's an astonishing way to get a pro-gun message into a book without violence.
Yeah.
Because it's like, see, if we hadn't had this gun, nobody would have found him.
Right. And I'm like,
We had.
it's like, y'all, I mean, it's not that complicated. You walk the property. You know you got a cabin. You know you got a barn. And you know you got a main house that can be frequented. Because, like, the cabin is not used very often, but Erica had cleaned it up because she's like, well, okay, if I'm going to own this property, then fuck it, I'm going to live in my own little space. And there's, like, only a loft bedroom, so I'm assuming it's like a cabin, but I'm assuming it's more like an A-line cabin or not something very big, you know. Well, it's in the mountains, so I'm assuming it was probably built like a alpine cabin type. They call them A-lines at home. Like an alpine cabin or something close to that, where there's not a lot of room upstairs.
Sounds reasonable.
So that's my assumption. It's like that kind of like a hunting cabin type.
It's a tiny home.
And so, but like, they get there, and, you know, there's these two people in the back, because they take him back, and, you know, he's like, no, I'll watch the grandkids, the great-grandkids, and I'm like, hold up. A 76-year-old man with a hurt body is watching two developmentally delayed twins who are just learning to walk. They're 15 months old, by the way. They mention it 15 times in the book, just so we're clear. Mm-hmm. They're 15 months old, developmentally delayed. In case you missed it, the first 14 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they also have this weird dynamic in there where one of the twins is the leader for some reason, because we needed that in there.
Yeah, Mikey is Santa and Teddy is the elf. I wrote notes about that.
Yeah, they give them themed outfits to fit their roles better.
Yeah, because we'll get back to that in a minute. But, like, so then they see these kids. They see these, like, I guess they were, like, 19, 20 years old. And, like, the girlfriend was having the baby or whatever. And so, apparently she had the baby and, you know, made her rest. And there was no room at the inn because there was no rooms available. So they have the baby, and apparently, like, the dude learned how by watching YouTube.
I'm pretty sure any good tutorial on that would be deleted from YouTube in an instant.
Yeah, right? Because I was like, how are you learning how to birth a baby on YouTube? And I don't just mean, like, learning to birth a baby. I mean, like, he knew not to cut the umbilical cord because it was too dirty in there. So, I mean, I don't think he just watched how to birth a baby then. I think they were planning on not being an A-player for a little while to not birth a baby. Because apparently their family were being, like, assholes or something. And
it doesn't matter. It's too tiny a plot.
But it's a common theme in this book. It seems like rich people are assholes and the working man is...
Yeah, only that the working man is rich as fuck.
Right. But so, that's going on. But then, like, to get into the romance part, because there is, like, there's romance in here. And, like, the romance is, like, the worst.
No man's.
No, like, there is no kind of, like, connection. They don't really do well together. It's awful. Like...
They have chemistry because the book says they have chemistry.
Right, like, they have, like... they don't like each other, so it's not like an enemies to lovers, or it's not like a second chance romance, or I mean, it's almost like it wanted to be a Hallmark movie, because we've seen those ones where like people are like clashing, but they're not enemies; they're antagonists to each other. But like this one, like it's been a week and they're already like in love.
And basically, all they ever bond over is how good they are with the twins.
Yeah, like they don't have any like, and the fact that she's not a drug addict.
Yeah.
That's high on his list.
For being a human being.
No. We already know what happens when you're a drug addict. You get kicked out of his life.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're a drug addict, you're not a human being.
Oh, yeah. So, but like, and they kiss. It's all like, it's not even like a closed door. But it's like, apparently they have like a steamy kiss, but it's not a steamy kiss, guys. It's like, it's probably like the end of Princess Diaries. When Mia's getting kissed by that guy.
I was going to go for Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, yeah?
Just because of that era of Hollywood with the closed mouth kisses.
Oh, yeah. I was going to go with the Princess Diaries, because I imagine that Erica's foot probably popped, because, you know, she had by the way, so she didn't have a lot of experience with guys, because she was ugly, and therefore guys were not interested in her.
Except that the book also makes sure to tell us that she's gorgeous and amazing at the vision and the stunning in the sight all the time.
Oh, yes. And so, but like, so you hear that, and like, you see that all the time, and, you know, he loves her because, like, he's in love with her, and he admits it before, like, on Christmas Eve at the church, because there's always a church scene. So...
Several.
Yeah. But, like, at the end, there's always, like, a ultimate moment church scene. And so, this is their ultimate moment at the church, and so, like, he's found out that these are his nephews. She's a liar, as we've established. She doesn't deserve anything good in life. And then, like, you know, the grandpa's like, why are you giving up on this love and all this stuff? Because, like, I mean, it hurt and it was wrong, but you were kind of put in a shitty position because your friend told you not to do this, but also sent you here, but also didn't have any plans for you and didn't give you any of the documents. She sent the twins' document to the brother she didn't want to have any, like, connection with, but didn't give it to the one that had the babies.
Make sense of that.
And then, like, so he overrides her all the time. I mean, like, he does nothing but override her.
Yep. He makes suggestions, he goes for actions, she says no, he does it anyway, and it's fine.
Yeah, because, like, she doesn't want to deal with like, dealing with, like, insurance or doctors or whatever, or very expensive specialists because she can't afford them. I think that's why it's Philly, because it's, you know, big hospital.
Yeah, she can't afford them, and she's worried about the papers.
Yeah, so she doesn't have any of that stuff. So at one point, she's like, okay, well, we're here, you got us this appointment, we'll go, but you can't go in, and you can't stay. And so he's like, the fuck? And he's like really angry and pissed off about it because he wasn't included. I'm like, dude, you've been here for 5 days at this point. And so he's like pissed off about that. And so they're at the appointment, and she tells the doctor everything, and like the friend of his said, oh, this doctor is very like cold, and she's blah blah blah. And she's like, I didn't find her cold, I just found her efficient, basically. Like, she was doing her job.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't like, she didn't have like a huge, but like, because Erica told her everything that was going on, like, these are not my kids, but I can't let him know because he's the relative that I was told not to say anything to, and I don't have the documents, but I need to have something for these kids. And the doctor's like, well, yeah, I agree, but like, if you ignore the developmental delays in these kids, I have to say you're being neglectful because you're aware of it now. And like, you know, she talked to her friend Kimmy's like deathbed lawyer, basically, and he was like, yeah, you know, you've got half of the farm, that's how she found out. And, you know, but he was like, and she's like, well, what about the kids? And the lawyer's like, what kids are you talking about? He had no idea whatsoever. So I was like,
because also dense as fuck.
And I'm just like, wait, hold on. You're not providing for the kids. You were a drug addict. you called up your friend like 2 months before you die, and all this is going on because apparently they've been friends for like a decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
When Kimmy and Erica's mom were in rehab at the same time. Obviously, it didn't stick for either one, but especially didn't stick for the mom because she did.
Because the book really wants us to think that there's no hope for addicts whatsoever.
Right, and they do that with his ex-fiancée. I'm gonna call her Renee. That's not her name, but I'm gonna call her that. Renea, I don't know. But like
Juranella.
Yeah, but she's like, I mean, that's another thing. Like, she's got like this really weird name.
Mm.
Like Kimmy sounds like Kimmy Gibbler. I feel like I think of when I think of Kimmy. And then you've got like Renea, who's like this beautiful, exotic, type woman, but she's not good the way that Erica is because it's earthy and
Also implied that Renea is promiscuous.
Oh yes, apparently because like they mentioned that like she's like hitting on all the people because he apparently broke up with her and she didn't think that they were broken up because she sent him back the ring like, hey, do you think maybe you could get this resized? And he's like, the hell do you mean? Knowing she's in recovery at the time for her eating disorder, he sends her something so she leaves the clinic, which I'm assuming was also helping with her alcoholism because I think the implication was they went hand in hand. And so she was going in recovery, and he sends her this text, so she leaves, and her mom's like, well, if you leave, you're fucked, because we're just not done with you. You're a lost cause. And then by the way, you hear nothing about the ex-fiancé again, even in the epilogue.
They just drop her off, and she's forgotten for good.
Apparently she lives with the mother who never answers his phone calls. Except the one time when he said that Kimmy was dead.
Yep.
I mean, guys, and then, like... So they did the whole, like, in the scene of the church, they, he's like, she's there with his grandpa and, the great-grandparent, and, she's just like, blah, 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 and she's like, okay, we'll stay here, but then, like, the grandpa, when sat with his friend who was, like, alone, and it was his first time in church in quite a while, and I was like, did you watch Born on the 4th of July one day? Like, I don't understand where this came from.
And of course he finds all the answers in church.
Of course. And so you get all this information, and then, like, then Jason comes in and steps in and helps with the twins, who are getting fussy in church, because of course they are. It's church. They're delayed, lest you forget. And so they don't have the ability, there's nothing that keeps their interest. And so, like I said, like, I think it's Mikey is just learning how to walk. And he's, like, skipping, crawling, whereas I think Teddy's...
I don't even care.
But, like, no, I have to bring it up because, their positions, one's a follower and one's a leader. You cannot be both either or nothing. So, there's this whole thing. Anyway, so they have their, like, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, skip 12 months later on Christmas Eve, and, like, they're married, Jason's living in this small town, helping with his grandpa because he made that deal with God. He bargained with God, even though you're not supposed to.
And, of course, she is preggers.
Right, and apparently back in school, from what I gathered, was a class topic thing. And, like, so, I don't know how she's got time to go to school, get pregnant, work part-time, and have her two twins. Or their two twins, I guess.
All is possible through God.
Yes, exactly. And then, but here's the thing. So they found out it's a little girl, and they're going to name the little girl Kimmy, right? Y'all, this is the motherfucking ending of the book. I'm pissed. Like, I wrote notes about this because I was like, what they said made me absolutely furious. Oh, full circle. Erica lifted her face to heaven with a prayer of gratitude and joy. And it seemed to her that her old friend Kimmy, all sins forgotten, must be smiling down on the entire family.
So when she's dead, they can forget the sins. Then it's convenient. Then it's easy.
Like, also the fact that she was like an addict. An addict does not mean you are like unimportant. You are dirt. You are trash. It means that there's something in your brain that is not clicking the way that it should for you, the right way. It's making something very difficult for you.
Yes.
And it's harming you, and it's not good. And god damn it, I was so mad about this part of the book that I wanted to throw it against the wall, and my husband can tell you. I almost did throw it against the wall because I was furious. I was, ugh!
And rightfully so.
Because the way they treated addicts in this book, like, y'all, I know it's Christian, but it's also a fucking Harlequin book. Like, you have the ability to change the fucking industry. Why are you doing this shit? Why are you promoting this piece of shit? You're Harlequin. Like, you're a known asset. You're the only really category romance left in the U.S. And, I mean, like, you've got Mills and Booms in the UK, but they're owned by Harlequin now, I believe. So you're the only fucking category person left, and you're writing this trash. It's 2017 when this book was... I am so angry that, like, I'm furious at this book.
Flames at the side of her face.
Like, no, not even the side of my face, on the side of my body at this point. Because, like, I've known addicts. My family has addicts in it. Do you know one thing that, like, you don't do? You don't stop loving them. You don't stop caring. You can get tired, you can get broken, you can get, like, exhausted, but you don't think they're trash for the addiction. Their actions are not the same thing. Their decisions are not the same thing. Like, you know, in this case, Kimmy not wanting the boys to be around him. But, like, I am so fucking angry at the way this book treated addiction and brokenness, because you're broken, that doesn't mean you're broken in and of yourself.
It's literally a disease that can be treated.
And, like, it's not necessarily curable, but it can be treated. There are steps you can take, and it doesn't have to be a fucking Christian one that does it.
Right.
Oh my god.
You certainly can't pray it away.
No, you need a lot of help, and like, I hadn't planned on this episode being this long, but I'm so angry at this book that I don't know if I can tell you how angry I am at this book. Like, I could rant on this book for the next 6 hours, and I don't think it would cover it, because it's such a shitty view of how things work and how life is and how you always need somebody, and just fuck it. Like, but just don't be an alcohol dick, damn it. That's it. That's the only lessons you have. Don't be an alcohol dick.
It should be easy, but apparently it's not for some people.
Ugh. Anyway, so obviously we didn't like this book. Not a high-ranking book. As I said, if you listen to us for Drive Me Home for Christmas.
I preferred that one, actually.
So, he's read an erotic romance, because that's what that would be. He's read a historical romance, a contemporary Christian romance, and next year I'm thinking he gets a paranormal romance.
Monster fuckers, monster fuckers, monster fuckers.
It's gotta be better, right? And there's a ton of those, so I can have anyone I can choose from. And maybe by then, Talia Hibbert will have one out, because she's writing one in the Mating the Huntress series.
Fuck yeah, Talia Hibbert.
Yeah, like, we love Talia.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping maybe she'll have one by then. Hope, because, you know, she's a writing machine, and I love her writing so much.
Talia, save me. Please. Talia, please. My fate is in your hands.
Literally. Because I'm the one picking the books.
I'm helpless here. Only you can save me.
Alright. So, we're gonna say this book royally sucks.
Yup.
Do you have any closing comments on this book?
All cops are bastards, and this one in particular.
So, I think that pretty much guarantees that this book is not one we enjoy. I will say that this is, like, not the last episode of the year. I have one more coming out on New Year's Day, guys. Or not New Year's Day, Christmas Eve, New Year's Day, somewhere around there. But I will say, keep a lookout on the damselspodcast.com blog, because I have a post coming up about about podcasts I recommend, podcast episodes specifically, that have made a mark on me this year, and there's quite a few. There's quite a few women within this, and there's quite a few book podcast recommendation episodes, and there's a bunch. I had trouble choosing some of them, and I will reference other ones in there, and I also provide a direct link.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give you this heads up now because I'll be talking about them vaguely on the episode on the 31st first, and so I want to kind of give you guys a heads up.
I've seen the work in progress of the list, and it's awesome.
It's thorough. It's me, so it's thorough.
You're awesome.
Also, if you go to the webpage, you will have the ability to see the Patreon guests. And, Patreon, and also, just the regular episode guests, the podcast guests. Sven wins on the most episodes, with Courtney not far behind. Because I know Courtney's been featured on, 4 episodes since July. So.
I'm the winner. Take that, competence.
So, check that out before this goes through, and I'm going to let my husband go away now.
I'm a ghost.
He's a ghost of books past at this point.
I'm really past this book.
Say bye, Gracie.
Bye, Gracie.
Hi, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this rant-filled ranting on Christmas. I mean, I could have watched Scrooge instead, so at least, yeah, you know what? Maybe Scrooge would have been better. But I hope everyone has a really good day now that you've listened to the ranting, or if this is a day or two after Christmas. I hope your Christmas was really great. Again, if it's not Christmas for you, happy Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't know, whatever day you listen to this. The next episode, I'm going to do the yearly wrap-up, and I'm going to have a short novella I'm going to discuss, and I have a favor for you guys. If you would please send me your favorite rec in an audio file for the 2020, like a book, I would appreciate it, because I am putting it in the last episode, and I want to give you guys your voice too, not just mine. Maybe my podcast, but your podcast too. So you can send that to damselspodcast@gmail.com. You can see the list that I'm going to be talking about in the episode coming up. It's going to premiere a couple days before on damselspodcast.com. Y'all, I'll try to make it as easy as I can for you to find me. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Damsels Podcast. Again, repetition is key if my German classes told me anything. So, I hope you have a really good day. I hope that you find love in a moment of stillness, whether it's love for someone else or love for yourself, especially love for yourself. Actually, I take that back. Please love yourself a little bit more, because 2020 has been hard, and the holiday season has been hard for a lot of people, and just love yourself and give yourself some grace. Happy holiday, guys.